Good afternoon. This is Mike Walsh, and I am broadcasting from 740 Main Street, which is Town Hall. Today we're taking 4 or 5 questions that have come in over the last week, and they're a result of our invitation to Ask the Mayor. So question number 80, in terms of number 80, we've been at this for about 12 weeks, a little bit more than 3 months, and we are up to questions 80 through 84. So question number 80 comes from Tim, and actually it's a 2-part question. It's very exciting that East Hartford is getting fiber internet service, and I saw that Zone 1 includes a big chunk of town around the area between Silver Lane and a little past the high school. Is there a timeline for each zone, and is there a map that shows all of the zones? Going off of this, do we know what price plans will be available? I see the ISP, which is the internet service provider, is Flume, and yet there's no information available from them yet. And in terms of Tim, the answer to your question is yes. We have a map, and it shows all the zones and basically how many feet in each zone that the company, which is located on Tollin Street, they're called Longe Lev, and that's longevity and latitude in terms of their company name. They've been at it about 7 weeks now, and Kate from my office will put up on social media a better picture of the map so that you can see how they're going. But we're about 18 to 24 months away from really the entire network being created. They're laying the conduit now. They'll then shoot fiber through it. Once they shoot fiber through it, they'll connect it and light it up neighborhood by neighborhood. So we're probably a good year away, if not 2 years away, from being lit up, and they will light up area by area, meaning we're not going to wait for the entire network. We're going to wait for a particular area, light that up, and so forth. So the reason you don't see any pricing is they don't want to prematurely go out there, meaning Flume, until the network is operational. So think about it as if we're constructing our own utility, and that utility being internet service. We're really only in the very early infancy stages. Again, 18 to 24 months out. Might be a little earlier for certain areas of town, but we're going to put that map up, Tim, so that you can see. And then when it gets to a critical mass point, Flume will put out their price points. So hopefully that explains it. Remember, this is a brand new utility. It is not AT&T Frontier. It is not Comcast. It's the only utility going 100% in the ground. That's the way you build a resilient network, and it will have prices lower than what you're paying today. So if you have the opportunity not to sign up for a long-term contract, I think you'll be better served with higher speeds and lower cost once the town's Sci-Fi network is operational. Question number 2 from Tim said, I saw that in the state budget and accompanying legislation, there were funds dedicated to school indoor air quality and HVAC systems, as well as some regulations. August, September, May, and June can sometimes have stretches of really hot days. Are there any plans for the schools that don't have air conditioning to get air conditioning? What exactly is the impact of the state budget and legislation on this regarding indoor air quality? So the answer to that, Tim, is through the American Rescue Plan Act, our school system receives some $24 million. But for some supply chain issues, I'm told by Ben Whitaker, our Chief Operating Officer, that but for 2 or 3 classrooms, we're not talking schools, but classrooms, every single building in the school district that doesn't have air conditioning after the work is done will have air conditioning. So we should no longer have problems with hot days in any of our schools, but for those couple 3 classrooms that can't be done. And I think those might even be the high school. I'm not 100% sure. So better air conditioning is coming to all schools in some way, shape, or form, especially if you don't have it. But more importantly, as a result of that, the air quality will increase. I have not seen any hard and fast standards related to measuring the air quality, only that we are getting and attaching filters so that there will be better air quality than there is today. So hopefully that answers questions 80, Part A and Part B for Tim. The next question is from Akeem, and he lives down in Mayberry Village. He said, when will you repair our streets, roads, corners, sidewalks, curbs, highways, and byways? And the answer, Akeem, is there's a larger engineering plan. It's out on the town's website. We have an inventory of all the town's infrastructure, and how we ultimately will pave, repave, rebuild, reconstruct is part of that overall road inventory. So again, part of a larger plan. You can go to the town's Public Works 2022 road improvement program. You can see which roads we've done this year. You can also see which roads we'll do in 2023. Akeem continues on, when will you pick all the trash thrown down on streets, corners, byways, sidewalks, curbs, properties, and grassy areas? Akeem, I love you, my friend, but my job is not to pick up trash. We will run sweepers, and we will run some of our public works folks, but the idea is the responsibility to pick up trash rests with each property owner. And you know what? Pay it forward. If you see a piece of trash on the ground, this is your community. Help me to help you pick up the trash. Next question, also from Akeem. When will you bring back Showcase Cinemas and Stop and Shop? Akeem, Showcase is gone. It's going to be the future home for 439 market rate apartments and $1.2 million of new annual tax relief money. That's important for Silver Lane because, as you know, we're redeveloping Silver Lane. And those 439 apartments represent $15 million of new disposable income that will begin to attract retail back to Silver Lane. That's the second part of your answer, Akeem. Stop and Shop left because they weren't getting enough patronage. They regularly rang their cash register to the tune of $26 million a year, while their Glastonbury stores were in excess of $70 million a year. So it simply became a business decision. Their rent was being raised by the owners and operators of Charter Oak Mall, and they just didn't find the need to continue to invest in capital in East Hartford, where in other communities they can receive a higher return on investment. I know that's hard to hear, and I know we all love Stop and Shop. I used to shop there. But at the end of the day, Stop and Shop is not there because there was not enough disposable income to make their investment of capital in East Hartford worthwhile. Again, bringing $15 million of new additional disposable income from the relocation of the apartments on Silver Lane will help us to attract a new grocery store. So that's the answer to that question, Akeem. And finally, when will you provide us more activities so we won't be bored? Akeem, I got to send you out to the Parks and Recreation website. We have classes in art, we have classes in pottery, we have yoga, we have Pilates, we have, and all of this is done. Go to the library, read a book. We have classes, we have trips that we are beginning to get back into post-COVID. Jump on a bus, go to the amusement park. We have discount books. Go to the 5 pools that we have. We have 52,000 residents and 5 outdoor pools. I found out Waterbury only has 2 pools, outdoor pools. So you live in a community that is rich with services, and I strongly suggest you go out to the Parks and Recreation website. And again, read a book, join a class, swim in our pool, come to the town council meeting every other Tuesday. A million things you can do. Sounds of Summer every Thursday. I was there last Thursday. We had 2 food trucks and Shaded Soul. Wonderful free opportunity to hear some great music. So it's not that East Hartford doesn't have a lot going for it. In this particular case, we had to put you in touch with the information you needed so that you knew just how much East Hartford does with respect to leisure activities. And then finally, when will you fix the dilapidated structures and homes here in Mayberry Village where I live? In Akeem, 2 things. First off, the town of East Hartford, while it encourages homes to maintain a particular building structure, we can only enforce it through what we call blight enforcement. So we have 3 property maintenance inspectors that will go to houses and knock on doors for paint and broken windows and illegal dumping and so forth. We are regularly in Mayberry Village. Please give us a call, report a number where you'd like us to go, but I turn it back to the individual community. It's the responsibility of the owners, and even if you're renting, hold your landlord accountable for cutting their lawn and putting a coat of paint on the outside of the building. This is our community, and we need everybody to work in unison to make it a better place. So Akeem, I hope I've answered your questions, and those were a number of questions for the 81st submission. The 82nd submission is submitted by Steve. Can we clarify what the police department pursuit policy is? We have some problems with some ATVs on Brewer Street, as we do every year, and there is some discussion as to whether the police department can chase after them to arrest them. Steve, the answer is we have a policy set by a state committee called POST, Police Officers Standards and Training, I believe is the acronym. And it's basically they look at things statewide on a policy basis, and you are correct. An all-terrain vehicle, in all likelihood, will never be chased by an East Hartford police officer. And here's why. Number one, there's probably an underage minor driving it. Number two, unless there was a physical crime where somebody was assaulted, sexually assaulted, or murdered, it doesn't require the risk reward, and I hate to use the word reward, but the risk reward for chasing somebody for a property crime it's a poor decision if the police were to do it. That ATV rider in all likelihood will speed away, and when they crash into a van full of children heading to lake compounds, or a small family going somewhere out to dinner, it becomes a real problem. And unfortunately, Steve, I was the former finance director and the risk manager. I have seen this in other cases 20, 30 years ago, before this statewide policy was enacted. It is never a good thing when an officer chases somebody that results in a fatal collision of either the person we're chasing, the officer who's in harm's way by chasing them, or whatever it is that person hit who was running away from the officer. So as a statewide policy, we will not chase that ATV. But Steve, we ask that you continue to report those to the police department. If we get a license number, if it happens to be registered, we will go out there. If it's not registered because it's an illegal one, if anybody can tell us where they're stored, is it a garage, is it a neighborhood garage, we will follow up on that investigation. And if we find we can correlate that ATV to illegal street use to a particular location, we will seize it. But again, don't not call, make us aware of it, but as a hard and fast rule, unless there was a physical injury associated with it, if it's just a property crime, we will not chase an all-terrain vehicle, a motorcycle, or one of those small pocket bikes. Unfortunately, those are the times that we live in today. The liability exposure is just too great to warrant putting our officers and the public in harm's way. Question number 83 comes from Carrie. The 4th of July comes every year, so does the illegal fireworks blown off in residential neighborhoods. My question is, what does our town do to enforce these illegal fireworks? Animals and people with PTSD suffer every time one is set off in our backyards or street. I've called at least 6 times within the last 2 days, and guess what? They still happen, so how does it get enforced? I am not against fireworks, but when it happens practically in your backyard, then it's a safety issue. When I made the last call, the officer did talk to the guys involved and drove off. Is this how they handle illegal fireworks, or do they just don't care? Carrie, I can assure you our police officers care very much so. But I'm going to show you the front page of the Journal-Inquirer over the weekend. It says kaboom, and the subgroup is fireworks, injuries, accidents up, enforcement not easy. Here's what happens, Carrie. There are only 2 types of fireworks that are legal in Connecticut. Those are what we call sparklers that you can hold, and what they call fountains. Nothing that goes into the air, so to speak, at least high in the air, like bottle rockets, and nothing that explodes like firecrackers or M80s. So first off, the distinction. There are 2 types that are legal, everything else is illegal. However, you can get the illegal ones in New Hampshire, and then you can bring them back to the town of East Hartford. Our police officers will always go out and investigate the matter. But generally what happens is the public is aware, and either number 1, there's nobody to talk to when our officers get there, or number 2, the owner of wherever we are will insist that it was the legal kind. We'll ask to inspect those, and they'll give us legal fireworks. And when we inspect those, we say, okay, these are legal, don't do it again, or if someone's using the illegal ones, don't do it again. Or best case scenario, we drive up and somebody says, oh yeah, that was Uncle Frank and he drove away. We don't know where he is now. So what I'm saying is there's shades of investigations that even the best police officers will have a time getting somebody, a homeowner, if they were using illegal fireworks. We need a witness. There needs to be a report. Very difficult to get all of those things together. So oftentimes while we investigate 100% of the complaints, we walk away empty-handed, either because we don't get cooperation, they were using the legal kind, or they simply will not be a witness in the result of a police report. So again, front page of the Current, enforcement is just not easy. We need residents to cooperate with us, and if they're cooperating with us, they're probably not doing it in the first case. So I don't want you to think this is lack of enforcement on the police's part. It is very much full enforcement, but very difficult to enforce. And even if we do get them into court, it's very much just a misdemeanor charge with a small fine. So again, this is community. Everybody's got to do their own part. And for those that are out there, think of your neighbors, think of the veterans who may suffer from PTSD, think of the pets. Just don't do it. But Carrie, I have no expectations that those that are within the sound of my voice, you're either following the law and shaking your head saying, yep, the mayor's right, or you're not and saying, we're gonna have our illegal fireworks display anyway. Last but not least, question number 84 comes from Flo. And she says, I live on Raymond Street. There's a path at the end of the street that leads out to Oxford Drive and to the senior center. Many people from Elms Village use that path. Some of them use electric wheelchairs or use walkers. The path is so bad that a man in a wheelchair toppled over. Good thing one of my neighbors saw him on the ground and went to help him. I would have tripped on that particular piece of pavement myself. The path needs to be taken up and replaced completely and much smoother. It would be nice if the residents had a way to walk to the senior center. So the answer is Alan Tarble, our highway supervisor, is going out and we will patch that road, or that path, I should say. Now don't panic yet. It is scheduled to be replaced, but we're not gonna have access to the full replacement contractor until sometime mid to late September. So we'll put a patch on it initially. That'll buy us some time, and then the full fix will come late in September. This is Mayor Mike. It is Wednesday. Those were the questions that came into the office this week. And if you are within the sound of my voice and you have some other questions, send them in to Ask the Mayor, and this time next week we'll reply to them. Hopefully everybody had a safe and productive 4th of July, and we'll see you next week.